Dr. Tyler Webb floated in the dimly lit observation deck of the Zalante Research Station, a cup of synthetic coffee growing cold in his hands. Outside the reinforced windows, the gas giant Kepler 442b spun lazily, its storm system swirling in, patterns that had mesmerized him for months. The research station was humanity's farthest outpost, a lonely sentinel at the edge of known space where scientists like Tyler spent years studying cosmic phenomena that most people would never see. The station's AI chimed softly, breaking the peaceful silence. Dr. Webb, anomalous electromagnetic signature detected on frequency 1420.405 MHz. Signal strength suggests artificial origin. Tyler sighed and pushed himself toward his workstation. After 6 months of analyzing dead pulsars and background, radiation, even a false alarm would be welcome entertainment. He settled into his chair and pulled up the data stream, expecting to see the usual cosmic noise that plagued their sensitive equipment. What he found instead made him sit up straight. The signal was crude by modern standards, transmitted using electromagnetic waves instead of the quantum entanglement technology that connected the galaxy. It reminded him of the old radio transmissions from Earth's early space age, the kind of primitive communication that civilizations abandoned once they developed faster-than-light travel. Computer, clean up the signal and run it through the universal translator, Tyler commanded, his fingers dancing across the holographic controls. The station's advanced AI worked for several minutes, filtering out cosmic interference and reconstructing the damaged portions of the transmission. When the translation appeared on his screen, Tyler's coffee cup slipped from his hand and floated away, forgotten. The message was a desperate plea for help. It spoke of massive creatures called devourers that traveled between star systems, consuming everything in their path. Entire civilizations had been wiped out, reduced to nothing more than empty space and scattered debris. The transmission described planets stripped bare, suns drained of their energy, and billions of lives lost to an enemy that seemed unstoppable. But what truly shocked Tyler was the source of the message. It claimed to come from the human colonial defense fleet, transmitted from a ship called the UES Horizon, somewhere in the Outer Rim territories. According to the message, humanity had been fighting these devourers for over 200 years, slowly losing ground, but never giving up the fight. Tyler checked the timestamp on the transmission, certain there had been some mistake. The computer's analysis showed the signal had been sent just 72 hours ago. He ran the calculation again, and then a third time, but the result remained the same. This wasn't some ancient relic from humanity's past, or a hoax created by bored colonists. Someone, somewhere, had sent this message 3 days ago. The implications hit him like a physical blow. According to every official record in the Galactic Council's vast databases, humanity had gone extinct over 1,000 years ago. Their homeworld, Earth, was listed as a dead planet consumed by its dying star. Been established in the early days of interstellar travel, were marked as abandoned. Their populations either dead or assimilated into other species. Yet here was proof that humans not only still existed but were fighting a war that the rest of the galaxy knew nothing about. Tyler's hands trembled as he read the message again, absorbing details about weapons he'd never heard of. Battles fought in systems that weren't on any star chart. In a desperate struggle for survival that had been raging for centuries, the transmission ended with coordinates and a simple request. If anyone received this message, if any civilized species still existed in this part of the galaxy, please send help. The devourers were coming, and humanity couldn't hold them back much longer. Tyler stared at the screen for a long time, his mind racing. He should report this to the Galactic Council immediately, but something held him back. The message felt authentic, filled with the kind of desperation that couldn't be faked. Somewhere out there, humans were fighting and dying to protect a galaxy that had written them off as extinct. He made his decision and began composing a response. The massive chamber of the Galactic Council had seen many emergency sessions over the centuries, but few had been called with such urgency. Representatives from across the galaxy materialized through quantum portals, their forms ranging from crystalline beings that sparkled in the blue light to massive creatures that communicated through bioluminescent patterns. The chamber itself was a marvel of engineering, a sphere suspended in space where gravity bent to accommodate the needs of hundreds of different species. Ambassador Thelanara of the powerful hegemony arrived first, her translucent body catching and reflecting the chamber's ambient lighting like a living prism. She had ruled her star system for over 3,000 years and had seen civilizations rise and fall across the galaxy. When Dr. Tyler Webb's report about the human distress signal reached her personal communication array, she had laughed out loud for the first time in centuries. "Colleagues," she began as the session officially opened, her voice carrying the musical quality that made her species such effective diplomats. "We have gathered to discuss what can only be described as an archaeological curiosity. Dr. Webb claims to have received a transmission from something calling itself the Human Colonial Defense Fleet." A ripple of amusement passed through the assembled representatives. Humans were a legend, cautionary tale told to young civilizations about what happened when a species tried to expand too quickly without proper technological development. According to official records, they had destroyed themselves in nuclear fire over a millennium ago, their primitive aggression finally consuming them. Admiral Zorkith of the Marshall Confederation was the first to speak after reviewing Webb's data. His insectoid form clicked and chittered as he processed the information, his compound eyes reflecting disgust at what he saw. Electromagnetic waves. In this day and age, his mandibles clicked together in what his species considered laughter. "My ancestors abandoned such primitive communication methods before they even achieved interplanetary flight." He gestured to the holographic display, showing the technical specifications of the supposed human fleet. "Look at these readings. Fusion drives for propulsion instead of quantum field manipulation. Steel and ceramic composite hulls instead of programmable matter. These aren't the specifications of a starfaring civilization. These are the desperate attempts of a species that never learned to evolve beyond brute force solutions." Council Leader Vexhai is an ancient being whose species had been exploring the galaxy since before most others had developed written language. Studied the data with growing irritation. His tentacled form pulsed with bioluminescent patterns that indicated deep displeasure. "Even if we assume this transmission is genuine and not some elaborate hoax, what exactly are we supposed to do with this information? These so-called humans claim to have been fighting the Devourers for 2 centuries using technology that our civilization discarded millennia ago." The chamber fell silent as representatives considered the implications. The Devourers were no joke. In the past year alone, 12 entire star systems had been consumed by the ravenous swarm, their populations numbering in the billions simply vanishing overnight. The Council's most advanced fleets, equipped with quantum weaponry and exotic matter shielding, had barely managed to slow the enemy advance, let alone stop it. "The mathematics are simple," continued Vexhai, his patterns now glowing with the cold logic his species was famous for. "If we cannot stop the Devourers with our most advanced technology, what possible contribution could a primitive species make? Their fusion drives are slower than our cargo haulers. Their electromagnetic communications take hours to cross distances. Our quantum networks cover instantaneously. They might as well be fighting with wooden clubs and stone axes, Ambassador." Thelanara nodded in agreement, her crystalline form catching the light as she moved. "The Outer Rim territories are already lost. Our scouts confirmed that the Devourer swarm has consumed everything beyond the Perseus Arm. We have neither the time nor the resources to waste on archaeological expeditions to verify ghost stories from extinct civilizations." The debate that followed was brief and one-sided. Representative after representative stood to voice their agreement with the leadership's assessment. The Aquatic Federation pointed out that their deep space monitoring stations had detected no signs of human activity for over 800 years. The Silicon Collective's vast computational networks had found no evidence of human colonies in any of the star charts compiled over the past millennium. "We face a crisis that threatens the very survival of galactic civilization," declared Admiral Zorkith, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had commanded fleets in dozens of interstellar conflicts. "Every ship, every weapon, every Resource must be devoted to the evacuation of threatened worlds and the defense of our core systems. We cannot afford to chase fairy tales and wishful thinking. The vote, when it came, was swift and unanimous. Out of the 347 representatives present, not a single voice was raised in support of investigating the human transmission. The official resolution was clear. All council resources would be focused on evacuation protocols. And defensive measures? The mysterious signal would be classified as a historical curiosity and filed away in the archives. As the emergency session concluded and representatives began departing through their quantum portals, none of them noticed the small notation that appeared in Dr. Webb's original report. The timestamp on the human transmission showed it had been sent just 72 hours ago. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, a lost civilization was preparing to remind the galaxy what desperate people were capable of when pushed. To the edge, the council had made their decision. But the universe rarely cared about the opinions of those who considered themselves civilized. Dr. Tyler Webb stared at the ancient electromagnetic transmitter in the station's lower deck, its bulky components covered in a thin layer of dust. The device hadn't been used in decades, kept around only as a museum piece to show visiting students how primitive civilizations once communicated across space. Now it might be humanity's only hope of making contact with their lost brothers and sisters among the stars. His hands shook slightly as he powered up the old machine. The Galactic Council had been crystal clear in their orders after his report. About the human distress signal. Ignore it. Focus on evacuation protocols. Don't waste resources chasing ghosts from a dead civilization. But Tyler couldn't shake the desperation he'd heard in that original transmission. The raw emotion that spoke of real people fighting and dying in the darkness between stars. The transmitter hummed to life, its displays flickering with readouts that seemed ancient compared to the station's quantum communication arrays. Tyler composed his message carefully, knowing that every word mattered. He included the station's exact coordinates, confirmed that they had received the human distress call, and asked the simple question that burned in his mind. Are you really out there? He sent the message into the void and waited. According to you, the laws of physics, even if humans were still alive in the outer rim, it should take hours or even days for a response to travel back across interstellar distances using such primitive technology. Tyler settled in for a long wait, preparing himself for the possibility that no answer would ever come. The response arrived in less than 20 minutes. Tyler nearly fell out of his chair when the transmitter crackled to life, receiving a signal so strong and clear it might have come from the next room. The voice that emerged from the speakers was unmistakably human, carrying the accent and inflection that Tyler recognized from historical recordings of Earth's golden age. Zelanti Station, this is Admiral Jake Morrison of the Human Colonial Defense Fleet. Message received and confirmed. We've been monitoring your sector for the past week, tracking a massive devourer swarm heading your way. Our long-range scouts confirm enemy contact in approximately 18 hours. We're already en route to your position. Tyler's blood ran cold. The devourers were real, and they were coming here. He grabbed the microphone with trembling hands and responded. Admiral Morrison, this is Dr. Tyler Webb. The Galactic Council has ordered all ships to evacuate this sector. They don't believe humans still exist. How many vessels are you bringing? The pause that followed seemed to stretch forever. When Morrison's voice returned, Tyler could hear something that sounded like dark amusement. Doctor, we're bringing everything we've got, the entire Third Fleet, plus reinforcements from the Mars Defense Corps and what's left of the Europa Volunteers. You're looking at 347 vessels. From destroyers, to battleships, to something we call planet crackers. Tyler's scanners suddenly erupted in alerts and warnings. The displays showed massive gravitational distortions appearing. At the very edge of the solar system, ripples in spacetime that indicated ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. But these weren't the smooth, elegant signatures that Tyler associated with modern starships. These distortions were rough and violent, like tears being ripped in the fabric of reality itself. Admiral, I'm reading gravitational anomalies all across the outer system, Tyler reported, his voice barely steady. What kind of drive technology are you using? Morrison's laugh was grim. Old Earth tech, Doctor. Alkabir drives powered by antimatter reactors. Not pretty, not elegant, but they get the job done. The Council probably thinks we're barbarians for still using such crude propulsion, but we learned a long time ago that sometimes crude and reliable beats sophisticated and fragile. On Tyler's screens, contact after contact appeared as human ships materialized from the darkness of space. Each vessel was massive, angular, and built like a fortress. These weren't the sleek, graceful ships favored by the Galactic Council. They were weapons of war, scarred by countless battles and designed for one purpose: survival. Dr. Webb. Morrison's voice came through the speaker again. Might want to contact your council friends and tell them to clear the area. When we engage the Devourers, things are going to get very loud, very fast. We've been fighting these monsters for 2 centuries, and we've learned that the only language they understand is overwhelming violence. Tyler watched in awe as humanity's lost fleet took position around the gas giant, ready to face an enemy that had consumed star systems. Dr. Tyler Webb pressed his face against the observation deck's reinforced window, watching in stunned silence as the human fleet took formation around the gas giant. What he saw defied everything he thought he knew about modern starship design. These vessels looked like they'd been carved from solid mountains of metal and then shaped into instruments of war. The ships were massive beyond comprehension. Each one is elite 3 times the size of the largest Galactic Council dreadnought. But where Council vessels were sleek and graceful, built from exotic materials that bent light around their hulls, these human warships were brutal and angular. They were constructed from what appeared to be simple steel and ceramic composites, materials so primitive that most galactic civilizations had stopped using them thousands of years ago. Yet there was something terrifyingly beautiful about their design. Every line spoke of function over form, of ships built by people who had learned that survival mattered more than elegance. Massive weapon batteries jutted from their hulls like the spines of some prehistoric beast. Armor plating thick enough to stop meteors covered every surface. These weren't ships designed for exploration or diplomacy. They were weapons built for one purpose: war. Tyler's communication console chimed, and suddenly Admiral Jake Morrison's face filled his screen. The man looked exactly like what Tyler expected from someone who had spent his life fighting an impossible war. His face was weathered and scarred, with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much death. Behind him, the bridge of his flagship buzzed with activity as dozens of crew members worked at stations that looked ancient but clearly functioned with deadly precision. Dr. Webb, I presume? Morrison's voice carried the weight of authority earned through countless battles. I hope you're recording this conversation for your council friends, because they need to understand what they're dealing with. Tyler nodded, still struggling to find his voice. Admiral Morrison, I can hardly believe what I'm seeing. According to our records, humanity went extinct over 1,000 years ago. How is this possible? Morrison's expression darkened. Extinct? Is that what they told you? He gestured to someone off-screen, and new images appeared on Tyler's display. Planets reduced to lifeless husks, star systems drained of energy, entire civilizations wiped from existence. We've been fighting the Devourers for 200 years, Doctor. Lost Earth to them in 2387. Mars fell in 2401, but we didn't go extinct. We got angry. The Admiral leaned forward, his eyes burning with fierce determination. The Council probably thinks we're primitive because we still use steel and gunpowder, right? Let me tell you something about your advanced friends. Their weapons are elegant, precise, and completely useless against adaptive biometal. The Devourers learn from every energy beam, every particle cannon, every quantum torpedo. But they've never figured out how to adapt to a chunk of tungsten moving at 30% of light speed. Tyler watched in fascination as weapon signatures, unlike anything in Council databases, began powering up across the human fleet. These weren't the refined energy weapons favored by galactic civilization. They were kinetic impactors, fusion warheads, and something the tactical display labeled as relativistic kill vehicles. The power readings were off the charts. Admiral, what am I looking at here? Tyler asked, pointing to his tactical screen. Some of these weapon signatures are reading as stellar-level energy outputs. Morrison's smile was grim and cold. "Those are our planet crackers, Doctor. When the Devourers consumed our homeworld, we swore an oath. Never again. We built weapons that could crack planets in half because sometimes the only way to stop a cancer is to cut it out completely." Around Tyler's station, other human vessels continued to take position. He saw destroyers bristling with missile tubes, cruisers carrying what appeared to be artificial singularity generators, and massive dreadnoughts, equipped with weapons that violated several galactic treaties on stellar engineering. Your council ships probably rely on energy shields and exotic matter armor. Morrison continued, studying something on his own displays. The Devourers will adapt to that in minutes. But good old-fashioned kinetic energy, raw mass moving at incredible speeds, they've never learned to stop that. When you absolutely need something dead, Doctor, you don't use a laser, you use a hammer. Tyler realized he was witnessing something unprecedented in galactic history. Humanity hadn't just survived their supposed extinction. They had evolved into something the galaxy had never seen. A civilization built entirely for war against an enemy that consumed everything. In its path, the fleet that shouldn't exist was about to teach the galaxy what humans did best. This is a clear and detailed creative writing request for expanding a specific story section. Since this is about creative writing rather than research, I'll help you expand Part 5 directly. The space around Kepler 44 to be suddenly erupted in chaos, as reality itself seemed to tear apart. Dr. Tyler. Webb watched from his observation deck as thousands of massive shapes materialized from hyperspace, their arrivals sending shockwaves through the fabric of space-time. The Devourer's swarm had arrived, and it was unlike anything Tyler had ever imagined. Each enemy vessel was the size of a city. But they weren't built like ships at all. They were organic nightmares, pulsing with a sickly green light that seemed to drain color from the stars around them. Their hulls writhed and twisted as if they were alive, covered in what looked like metallic skin that rippled with each heartbeat of some massive alien consciousness. These weren't just ships. They were living creatures that had grown into instruments of galactic destruction. The few Galactic Council vessels that had ignored evacuation orders immediately opened fire with their advanced particle beam weapons. Tyler watched their elegant energy streams lance across space, striking the Devourer hulls with pinpoint precision. For a moment, he felt hope as the beams carved deep wounds into the organic metal. But then the impossible happened. The wounds began to heal, the alien metal flowing like liquid to seal the damage. Within minutes, the same weapons that had wounded them were now completely ineffective, the Devourer armor having adapted to neutralize the threat. Then Admiral Morrison's voice crackled across all frequencies. All human vessels, weapons free. Show them what Earth's children learned in the dark. What happened next would be talked about in military academies across the galaxy for centuries to come. The humans didn't attack like a civilized species. They fought like cornered animals with nothing left to lose, using tactics that made seasoned warriors question everything they thought they knew about space combat. Captain Diana Rodriguez of the destroyer U.S. Vengeance was the first to show the galaxy what human desperation looked like. Instead of maintaining safe firing distance like any sane commander, she aimed her ship directly at the largest Devourer mothership and engaged full engines. Tyler watched in horror and admiration as her destroyer accelerated to ramming speed, her fusion reactor deliberately overloading to turn her entire ship into a massive bomb. The impact was visible from Tyler's station. A brief new star that lasted only seconds, but left a wound in the enemy mothership that couldn't heal top commander. Nathan Brooks of the cruiser U.S. Last Stand took a different approach. His ship launched something the tactical computers couldn't identify, labeled only as a logic bomb in the human fleet's communications. Tyler later learned it was a computer virus specifically designed to attack the Devourer's hive network, the shared consciousness that connected their entire swarm. The virus spread like wildfire through their organic circuitry, turning their own coordination systems against them as Devourer ships began firing on each other in confusion. But it was Admiral Morrison's flagship that truly showed the galaxy what humans were capable of when pushed to the edge. The used Defiance fired weapons that made Tyler's sensors scream warnings about treaty violations and crimes against physics.
Ow.
Artificial singularity torpedoes tore holes in space-time itself, creating miniature black holes that consumed entire sections of the enemy fleet. Where these weapons struck, Devour vessels didn't just die, they ceased to exist. Their matter compressed beyond the event horizon of artificial gravity wells. The battle raged for 4 hours, but it felt like an eternity to Tyler as he watched. Humanity's lost children tear apart an enemy that had consumed star systems. The Devourers tried to adapt, their biomechanical forms shifting and changing to counter each new human weapon. But every time they thought they had found a solution, the humans revealed another nightmare pulled from their arsenal of desperation. When the last Devourer ship finally died, its organic hull splitting apart to spill its contents into the void, Tyler realized he was looking at the scattered remains of a swarm that had destroyed 12 solar systems. The debris field stretched across millions of kilometers, a graveyard of alien metal and twisted biomachinery that would drift in space for millennia. As a testament to human fury, as the human fleet began preparing for their next jump, Tyler managed to establish one final communication with Admiral Morrison. The man looked exhausted but satisfied, like someone who had just completed a task he'd been working on his entire life. "Admiral," Tyler said, his voice filled with awe and confusion, "why did you come? Your own worlds are under attack. Your people are dying. Why answer our distress call when you could have used these ships to defend your own colonies?" Morrison was quiet for a long moment, staring at something off-screen. When he finally looked back at Tyler, his expression was both grim and genuine, carrying the weight of centuries of human struggle. "Doc, that's what humans do," he said simply. "Someone calls for help, we show up. Every single time. Doesn't matter if they're strangers. Doesn't matter if we're outnumbered. Doesn't matter if we're fighting our own wars. When someone needs help, humans answer the call. It's who we are." The fleet vanished into hyperspace, leaving behind only wreckage and a galaxy that would never again underestimate the species they thought extinct.